All right, it's 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Christine, would you call the roll for the...
Sure. I don't have it. But, Dave Richardson,
Here.
Dave Fortin,
Here.
Dave Hosmer,
Here.
Michael Dougherty,
Here.
Greg Schimmer,
Here.
Glenn Lessig,
Here.
George McCoy,
Here.
Mark Shamber,
Absent.
who am I missing, Donna?
Ron Cabana.
Ron Cabana.
Thank you. All right, do we want to see an alternate for Mr. Cabana? Want to make a motion?
Dave Fortin.
All right, we've got a motion to seat Dave Fortin. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I will read the notice for tonight's public hearing. Town of Woodstock, notice of public hearing, April 7th, 2015, 7 p.m., Woodstock Town Hall. The Board of Finance of the Town of Woodstock will hold a public hearing at Woodstock Town Hall on Tuesday, April 7th, 2015, 7 p.m. in accordance with Section 7-344 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Itemized estimates of the expenditures of the Board of Selectmen, Board of Education will be presented, and the Board of Finance will hear all persons who wish to be heard in regard to any appropriations which they are desirous that the Board of Finance shall recommend or reject for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2016. Dated at Woodstock, Connecticut, this 24th day of March, 2015. Michael Dougherty, Chairman, Woodstock Board of Finance. All right, we're going to begin with the presentation of the budgets. The Board of Selectmen will present.
If Mr. Higgins said.
Yeah, I'm going to get that. Well, he's already been asked to do it.
No, I just told her to bring it up to the meeting. Vote it on to the meeting. Yeah.
All right, we can, I thought it was all set that we were selected. All right, so we're going to elect a moderator.
I nominate Ed Higgins to be
All right.
moderator.
We have a nomination and a second for Ed Higgins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right, once we get through the presentation of the budgets, we will open it up to the floor for discussion, questions, remarks. We ask that you please limit your time to 3 minutes. Everybody, please be courteous and direct all your questions or remarks through the moderator. All right, Mr. Walker?
Sure. No, good. Mr. Higgins up there.
Well, no, he's going to take over after the budgets are presented.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. This is fiscal year 2015-16 general government budget. So we started off this year knowing that resources were limited, and we let everybody know that when they were sending their budgets to us, so we could prepare the budget in total. So the original request came in to the general government at $5,480,726. The Board of Selectmen has cut $94,438 from those original requests. And a proposed fiscal year 2015-16 total general government budget has increased by $33,074. This budget is still $192,725 less than the 08-09 budget. So our budget last year was $5,353,214. The proposed budget for this year, or for the coming year, would be $5,386,288. It's an increase, again, of $33,074, or a 0.62% increase. This is just a graphical representation of how it looks over the years. You can see 5,386,288 for fiscal 15-16. Although our overall budget is lower than it was, or has been than it was 8 years ago, our internal or operations budget has risen. As you can see, our blue line is lower than it was. The green line keeps growing each year, and our reduction of debt has been dropping. So our proposed budget is $5,386,288. Redemption of debt is $498,128. So our operations budget is $4,888,160. So the operations budget has increased since 08-09 by $376,592. That's $47,074 increase per average per fiscal year. And that's an 8.35% increase since 08-09, or a 1.04 average per fiscal year. This is just another representation of where the total budget goes. Approximately 76% to the Board of Education, 22% to the general government, and 2% to the redemption of debt. Capital improvements budget of $10,850,650 takes into account a number of different things: road projects, bridge projects, fleet upgrades. Big thing on this page that you'll see is the $2,789,580 for the school roofs, and that's in our capital project capital plan for the year 2015-16. Again, a total of $10,850,650.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Dr. Barron.
Good evening. And also, I want to thank you for inviting us here to present the budget to you. This budget is updated as of April 7, 2015. Very quick summary. The 2015-16 budget request of $16,593,690 is an increase of $101,924 over the budget of 2014-15 of $16,491,766. And I can assure you that Alan and I did not get together about the percent increase, even though they are identical at 0.62. I didn't know that until just this evening, Alan, but nice job. Areas of significant increase. The first is Woodstock Academy tuition. It's going up 3.2% over 14-15 budget, based on a tuition increase of 1.94% per pupil, and at this point, 4 additional students over the previous year. This also includes a reduction for transportation of international students within Woodstock. We had originally estimated $40,000. We didn't get quite that this year, so we're going a little bit on the conservative side and actually budgeting for what we received this year rather than an estimate. Non-certified salaries, these are your teacher assistants, bus drivers, and everybody outside the certified staff, the teaching staff. Includes contractual obligations, 2 part-time regular ed TAs hired during the 14-15 year, 4.5 special education teacher assistants hired during the 14-15 due to new students identified in the individual education plans. 1-time special education TA for next year's student in the 15-16 year, based again on what we know that students' individual education plan is going to require. The elimination of one full-time regular ed teacher assistant and substitutes for summer school needs. So you've got an $84,248 increase in non-certified salaries. Technology services. Again, this is simply to point out that you'll see this in the budget that you did not see in last year's budget, because we made the move, the Board of Education made the move to outsource our technology services. So you'll see a new line item of $71,000. However, that's somewhat offset by moving Mr. Olson back into the classroom. So if you see it, it is a new line item, but it was actually an offset, if you would. Technology, equipment, and software. The Board of Education decided to enter into a 5-year plan, including the needs for local share of technology grant money. So $17,746 as a part of a 5-year plan for technology. Net increase of all other accounts, $17,504, includes snow removal, property liability insurance, communications, new bus leases, things of that nature. They amount to slightly over $17,504. Legal fees, professional services. The Board of Education will be entering into negotiations with the custodians and the teacher assistants during the 15-16 year, and biannual costs for the GASB 45 actuarial services. The negotiations are going to deal with some very specific items, therefore the Board of Ed felt necessary to at least have the contingency there for legal services. New and replacement textbooks, $10,850. This includes science books for grades 7 and 8 and a K-2 language arts textbooks. Benefits, $10,694. FICA Medicare based on salaries, retirement, tuition reimbursement, and disability insurance. Tuition reimbursement is negotiated into both the teacher assistant and the teacher's contract, and just in case you were wondering what that particular item meant. Electricity, $8,801 increase, based primarily on delivery charges. Tuition for the vocational school at Killingly, Quinebaug Middle College, and adult education, a combined increase of $8,692. Transportation, we're estimating a decrease of $12,194 based primarily on a reduction in fuel based on $3 per gallon this year versus $3.56, excuse me, going into next year versus $3.56 that we budgeted for this year. Maintenance repairs, we had $21,853 in to paint, or at least begin a painting program at the middle school. That's been eliminated. Certified salaries, $22,100 decrease, the net result of contractual obligations, the elimination of 2 classroom teaching positions, and outsourcing our technology, as I mentioned earlier. Unemployment compensation, 1 layoff planned in 15-16 budget in lieu of 8 in the 14-15 budget. So we're looking at a reduction of $34,084. Those layoffs were primarily in the teacher assistant ranks. Heat, $39,309 reduction. We locked in a rate of $2.289 per gallon for the 15-16 year. The 14-15 rate was $3.169 per gallon. Health insurance, a reduction of $41,314 based on claims and premium estimates by our consultant, and the elimination of staff, the teachers and the teacher assistants that I mentioned in earlier slides. Workers' compensation, a reduction of $59,049, reduction due to changes in the insurance carrier, and a final assessment paid during the 14-15 school year. Special education tuition and services, at least at this time, we're estimating a $64,766 reduction. Program changes for individual students and students moving to another district. You see a summary of the changes from the Woodstock Academy, $155,708 down through the reductions that I just mentioned, for a total change of $101,924, or a 0.62%. At that, I'm sure Mr. Walker will join me in to answer your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Barron. Mr. Higgins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Barron. As the chairman mentioned, we'll try and go around the room and give everybody an opportunity. Realize that maybe some questions folks have, or if you have comments too. If you could just, when we go the first time around, just so Christine can log in, everybody, just state your name. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Bill.
No questions.
Everybody wants to go home. Is there any questions or comments? Going once, going, trustee?
I had a question. I always think it's funny that the Board of Finance sort of figures out what you can spend above the budget. So that means that the budget coming in is always approved from last year at a minimum. So it just seems that there's no drill down in the budget. Like when you sit here in a town that spends a lot of money on buying up development rights and buying up, and doesn't want development, doesn't want this, why we spend almost $200,000 to have a building inspector and a zoning enforcement officer in a town that doesn't want to have development is beyond me. I mean, if you talk to Pomfret, Eastford, Union, those towns spend about $14,000 on the building inspector every year. And they used to be, I believe, clients of this town. We used to do the building inspector. Now we just have our building inspector. So that's just an issue with me. I don't understand why we have to have that kind of compensation. I mean, it's $200,000 plus benefits. And then, the school's budget is even pre-approved for last year when it arrives here, because it's never been cut. So you have, the issue you have to deal with is when you buy an asset for the school. You give the school money to buy, smart screens, this and that and the other thing. And that money stays in the budget forever. It never goes away. It's never taken back. So you're building your minimum education budget every year and every year and every year. I mean, it's like the 26 fake students that went to the academy in '08, they're still in the budget. And that money rolls down the hill every year. And right now, you can look at what you pay for education at the academy is what is, actually, you're spending more on your education in first grade than you're spending for a high school student. So, when I constantly hear these people say that we're 169th, that's our town number, but we're in the bottom tier of it, you have to understand that you have towns like Eastford, Union, that make expending money in it for education extremely high because they don't have the mass to make a good education system. So, if you take the money that is spent for education at the high school and compare it to what the average is spent in the state, which is about 15,000. If you even just add the 390 students times 1,000 or 1,200 bucks, you're adding another $1 million to the budget, and you should see where that puts you in your budget standing. So some of the reason that you think that you're in a low position, you don't spend enough on education, is because you've got a really greatly run academy that respects the money and spends it wisely. And that's why you're in the lower tier. It's just an inconvenient truth for education people.
Question, maybe just to check, is there anyone else, I know you wanted to sit, I don't want to cut you off, but anyone else that wants to make a comment or question? If you'd like to, Preston, if you have any.
Yeah, the only question I had was for the first selectman. Has he figured out who takes the stipends for the health care?
Alan?
Yeah, of course, we know that, and you have a request in which is with the attorney, and you'll get your information when we know which information we can disclose and what we can't.
Okay. Do you take a stipend?
Like I said, you'll get that information when we get a response from our attorney.
So that's a freedom of information. Any other questions or comments?
How much will this make the taxes go up, the mill rate?
How much will the mill rate go up? Let's take a crack.
Because that budget has not been approved yet. And 2 weeks from tonight, the Board of Finance will be meeting to make our final recommendation for the town meeting.
Okay, anybody else?
Just one final comment, I mean, this town, you can check around, but you've got 10 trucks plowing snow in this town. You got 112 lane miles, or 212 lane miles. If they run 25 miles an hour, you know, it's a 3-hour job. And the point I'm making is that if you talk to people that live in Pomford, Eastford, if they see a snowplow once in a snowstorm, it's lucky. I can see it around my house about 4 times in a snowstorm. So it's just, the question is, what do these people do? I mean, SIG, SAS construction, road construction is shut down, there's nothing doing. We've got 10 drivers, what do they do all winter? When they're not plowing and when they're not sanding, I mean, it's a lot of people to carry. That's the point I make about drilling down in the budgets. I'd just like to see more of a drill down. Thanks.
Anybody else have any questions or comments they want to offer at this time? None. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
Thank you.
Our next meeting will be the 21st. That's when we'll decide on the final recommendation for the budget. The town meeting is scheduled for May the 12th, with a referendum scheduled for May 19th. And I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.